This is the second part here in a series of videos on getting started with CPN tools. In the first part we saw how to download and install CPN tools, and in this part we'll take a look at the user interface of CPN tools. So I've started up CPN tools here, and it looks pretty empty when you initially start it up. Here to the left we have the bright area. This is called the index. This is where you have a toolbox, an entry for help, and all the models we'll be working on. To the right, in the big area, we have what's called the workspace. This is where we will actually be doing our editing. In the index, we have an entry for the toolbox. This contains all the tools we'll be using, for instance, tools for creating net elements or for doing simulation. It also contains an entry for help, which is always able to help you using CPN tools. It contains a bunch of links down here, but the most useful is the help. So we take the help and drag it out onto the workspace. And now we get a browser with a whole bunch of information about CPN tools, including the Getting Started guide you can find by going to Introduction to CPN Tools, and then Getting Started with CPN Tools. This guide is a good starting point for using CPN tools, or you can just watch these videos. So let's get started using CPN tools. Now, what we'll do is we're going to load in a model. To do that, we go out here to the workspace, then right-click and hold down the mouse button. When I do that, a circular menu appears. This is like a right-click menu in not regular programs, except it's circular. So I can go and select to load net. When I install CPN tools, a bunch of sample nets are installed. So I go to my documents and I have this sample CPN models, and I can go and pick this hierarchical protocol. This is a simple network protocol where we have a sender, a network, and two receivers. The sender sends packages via the network to the receivers, but the network may lose or change the order of packets. So the receiver has to send back an acknowledgement acknowledging the receipt of packages, so the sender can continue sending the next package. So we'll just close this down. Out here in the index, we now have a new entry for the model we have loaded. This was the hierarchical protocol. It contains an option showing the number of steps I have simulated, currently 0, the current time in the model, a bunch of options, we will not worry about these, the history, and the declarations of the model. So we can see we have defined a bunch of color sets, some variables, some more color sets, some variables, and a couple of functions. We also have the ability to add monitors. We will not look at that either. In order to actually edit the model, I need to drag out the pages onto the workspace. So I click and drag the page out onto the workspace. The page appears in a binder which can hold multiple pages. So I can drag out also the sender or the network. I can also drag a page out into a separate binder simply by dropping it on the background, and it appears in its own binder. A page can be moved from one binder to another by simply clicking and dragging to the corresponding binder. A page can also appear in more than one binder, so we can get the best view of our model for our work. For tools, we go to the toolbox. So I can select and drag, for instance, the simulation tools out onto the workspace. The simulation tool appears in a tool binder, just like regular pages, and I can have more than one tool palette in a single binder, and I can switch with them by simply clicking on the tabs. If I'm ever in doubt about using one of the tools, I can right-click and get the marking menu and select Help. And a help page describing this individual tool shows up, and I can get a whole bunch of information about the use of this tool. So this was very briefly the user interface of CPN tools, seen in part 3 on simulation. Thank you for your attention.